What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Valspar Championship. A very quick turnaround from the Monday finish that was the Players until this Thursday start that is the Valspar Championship. So with that, there are a couple of housekeeping items that I need to talk through, and I know a lot of you love to fast forward through this. Give me like 90 seconds here. I promise it'll be worth your while. Scheduling for this week, mostly the same, a little bit different. On Monday, obviously, there was not a DFS golf preview, so I released my annual March Madness optimal bracket video. I have no idea what is going on in college basketball, but historically, I've been very good at using math to create a good bracket, arguably a great bracket. So go check out that video. It's the only time once a year I do something, non-golf related. Additionally, the live chat this week is pushed back a couple of hours. So it's still going to be on Wednesday, but it's at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday instead of 3 p.m. Eastern. The Scramble show's still going to roll with the same time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Additionally, I will be on, as of right now, scheduled for a PGA Tour hosted Twitter Spaces at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. If you're serious about elevating DFS and betting voices in a larger PGA Tour ecosystem, please support that Twitter space. Please be involved. Please, whatever you can do to share it around, because that only helps us integrate voices like mine and others in this industry that are helping to forward DFS and betting purposes. Additionally, I want to move forward to the Valspar, but I must look back because I was sent so many screenshots. There were so many large contests last week. Two I want to point out. Dan Logsden, congratulations, won $43,000 and sheets. Eric Haber finished second in the Millie Maker for $100,000. Congratulations. Love to see everybody absolutely killing it. I think that's it. I think we can now move on to the Valspar. We can move on to Innisbrook. Let's just do it. The Copperhead course, the Snake Pit, Innisbrook, here we go. This is the final leg of the Florida Swing, and this course is not really like the other Florida courses, which are generally flat and there's water lurking everywhere. This is a plot of land with a lot more elevation changes. You're going to see more tree-lined fairways. It is technically in Florida, though doesn't really play like it. And in fact, there's actually a stat that Andy Lack put out in his course preview, which is already live on RickRunGood.com. It is a stupid, nerdy, really deep, in-depth look at this golf course, and he points out that while some of the other Florida courses are, top 5 in terms of penalty strokes because there's water lurking everywhere, Innisbrook is bottom 5. So you'll see water out there, but it's not really in play. It's still going to be a very difficult, tough task. These fairways are kind of hard to hit. The greens are very hard to hit. So there is going to be a true challenge out there. If you're looking at the regression model, so this is what I run every single course, every single year, all the stats, all that fun stuff. The one statistic that stands alone here is approach play. It's ranked 8th, which means there's only 7 other courses on the PGA Tour in which strokes gained approach is more important. You'll notice that driving distance pretty far down the list. That's that tree-lined aspect, right? It's okay to be a couple of yards off the fairway. It's not okay to be 15 yards off the fairway because then you're in prison. So accurate drivers who are good on approach play, if they can also hit it far and accurate, even better. But overall, this is going to be a true test for our game's best. Technically, Bermuda grass greens, but as we know, Florida this time of year, they're overseeded. It's a whole real deal that everybody wants to argue with you about on Twitter, but the average green size, only 5,800 yards. And really, I think maybe the most notable aspect of the Copperhead course, the 5 par 3s, and they're all like 190 yards or longer. I mean, it's a really tough set of par threes, and you really have to make your hay on the par fives because that's generally the only places that you're going to get below par scoring averages over the course of the week. So mix in maybe a little bit of wind and rain. Who knows what's going on in Florida, but this is going to be a challenge, and we're going to have to find the best golfers for this week coming off of a grueling long Players Championship week. Here is the cheat sheet, and we are already seeing, as expected, WDs from this event. So as of this moment, Tuesday morning, this cheat sheet is accurate, and it'll be updated if any more WDs come through. The notables, Paul Casey is out. He's twice a winner at this event. He withdrew on Tuesday morning. Sebastian Munoz has withdrawn. Doug Gim is out. Everybody else, for now, still in. So let's look at the board here. Justin Thomas leads the way at 11,000. Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, and Dustin Johnson round out the rest of the $10,000 tier. They're all great. They're all fine. Victor Hovland, arguably the hottest player on the planet right now. If you go over to the power rankings, you look at the last 50 rounds, you sort by just Valspar, you're going to see Victor Hovland, raw strokes gained total, the number one player in this field, 1.68. Tommy Fleetwood is right behind, but remember, he's got more than half of those are European Tour events. He's got the Saudi International in there, so only like a third of those are PGA Tour rounds. Victor's 3/4 of his rounds are coming from PGA Tour rounds. So keep that in mind. We can look at the weighted strokes gained in just 1 second, but Victor really stands supreme here, and he will be the first to tell you that his around the green play has caused him more strokes than he would have liked over the course of the last 2 weeks when he's been in contention. There's a theory and an argument to be made that the pitching opportunities, the chipping opportunities around the greens at the Copperhead course are not nearly as difficult as we've seen in the past couple of weeks. A little bit more straightforward. You're a little better off if you're not the world's best short game player. Now, the good news for Victor, he's the world's best ball striker, right? He just broke his own record for his own career, his personal best of strokes gained ball striking last week at the Players Championship, plus 4.5 off the tee, plus 9.5 on approach. Obviously, he has an ace in there, which helps in a big way, but it is just absolutely splendid stuff. So what we're seeing here from Victor. So I probably lean towards him, I lean towards Colin Morikawa, and I lean towards Dustin Johnson. The Morikawa stuff is interesting, and I'm going to have this really broken out in my Run Good Rundown. That's my newsletter that I send out every single week. So if you're not subscribed to that, there's a link in the description, or you can go to rickrungood.com/newsletter. You can get invited. I just send out little nuggets and trends and tidbits and things that probably don't even matter. But the par fives that I mentioned, the par threes that I mentioned, the 5 par threes over 190-ish yards, that's kind of Morikawa's sweet spot. And then you get him on the par fives, and he's kind of a killer in those situations. I'm really liking the way Morikawa sets up, and we can just absolutely forget about the performance at the Players Championship. When you are on the wrong side of a 3.5 stroke wave disadvantage, and you are playing in what multiple players described as some of the toughest conditions they've ever seen, they've ever played in, wipe it clean. No big deal. I'm willing to forgive and forget all of those guys who played on that side of the wave, and there's an argument to be made that maybe not having to play into Monday at the Players Championship is actually advantageous for heading to the Valspar. Hard to say. We'll never be able to quantify it, but Morikawa, Victor lead the way. And then the sneaky Dustin Johnson stuff. I've been bopping around, bouncing around on DJ over the course of the last couple of months, not really knowing when to deploy him and when to not deploy him. And he had the biggest backdooriest top 10 ever at the Players Championship last week. He shoots the course record, ties the course record 63 on Sunday, in which he just gained 4.5 strokes with the putter. He holed out for eagle on his final hole of the day. It was a backdoor, never in contention of this thing, finishes T9. But you do see kind of the positives that come out of it, right? You see that He putted well and gained strokes with the putter even outside of that course record-tying rounds. He also gained strokes in both of the ball striking categories over the course of the week. He is someone that I think with the fives and the threes that they have that are kind of unique and your opportunities to score around Innisbrook offer a pretty good, cheaper option here at $10,200. I'm willing to deploy him this week, although I have a very short leash on kind of the look of how to use Dustin Johnson moving forward. The $9,000 range is pretty fascinating. I certainly tip my cap to Louis Oosthuizen. I like what he is up to. He's got 3 straight trips to Valspar in which he hasn't finished outside the top 16. He did have a runner-up finish in there. I love the opportunity to maybe get Louis as your second man in. Obviously, there are general concerns about him winning golf tournaments, but at $9,900, if he's your second guy in, it's a little bit more stomachable. Stomachable? Is that a word? Able to stomach it. After that, Sam Burns, I really think this is kind of a decent leverage spot. So Burns is not only your defending champion, but he's played here 3 times, never finished worse than 30th. We saw good signs at API, and for basically 3 rounds, we saw great play at the Players Championship. He kind of punted it away a little bit in rounds 4 of the Players, but it's kind of okay to do that sometimes, right? And we've seen Burns do that at points in his career, but he's getting better at not doing that. We've got him in contention. We've got him with a couple of victories. It's a little bit rare to see him punt it away, but for $3.6 million and the world's best and a lot of other stuff going on and water everywhere, it's easy to punt it away at TPC Sawgrass. And I feel like if he would have finished T3, there would be a fever pitch to get access to Sam Burns this week, while one really kind of bad round and a T26, I don't think people are going to be as excited. So we'll see on Wednesday afternoon kind of what that ownership is shaping up to be. I'm wondering if the industry will kind of forgive one round or if they will go back to our defending champion. If they don't go back to him, I'd be interested. Abe Answer. You guys know I'm not like a huge Abe Answer guy, but I think that you could very seriously deploy him this week. So 2 trips to Innisbrook, 16th and 5th. They were a couple years apart. He did not play this in 2019. And when you start looking at the profile of a golfer who should play well at the Copperhead course, what do you start to think of? Well, being in the fairway or close to it is Abraham Answer's game, right? If you look at his driving accuracy, he's 7th on tour in playing out of the fairway. Then you start looking at approach play. Okay, well, in total strokes gained approach, he hasn't been as good this season, but we are starting to see maybe signs of that turning around. He's gained a little bit in 4 out of his last 5. We don't have his numbers from the Saudi International because they don't do the strokes gained breakdown for that event, but he finished T8, so you imagine he hit the ball okay. This is, I believe, a much better setup for him than we've seen in recent weeks and in recent months. So Abe Answer at 9,300 is probably my favorite guy out of the range. And then we've got to decide what to do with Matt Fitzpatrick. He was your chalk bomb. He was your guy who was super popular in the $7,000 range. The Players Championship was in the worst end of the draw. If I'm going to forgive Colin Morikawa for that, I've got to forgive Matt Fitzpatrick for that miscut and look at all the other top 10s now that he is, I believe, $1,300 more expensive this week than he was last. I cannot imagine there's going to be a huge rush to get back to accessing Matt Fitzpatrick. Maybe that's our opportunity to deploy him. So again, we'll know later in the week as we get closer to this thing locking, which feels, it's just tomorrow as I record this. I don't know when you're listening to it or watching it, but we will know soon what the ownership looks like for those guys. And I think the 9K range will be pretty ownership driven. Before I jump too deep into the $8,000 range, I did just want to pull up the Holy Grail here, load up the field, and just look at Valspar Championship history and start to see what names we find in this $8,000 range. Well, the 4th best player in this field at this event, dating back to 2008, is Bubba Watson. He's $8,800. This kind of makes sense as a Bubba track, he's gaining a stroke and a half per round over 22 rounds. It's a lot of rounds, and it's a lot of strokes to gain. T13 last year, T4 the year prior. He had a third place finish back in 2010. He's played this event sporadically, right? Doesn't always play it. He's only played it, 7 times in the last 13 years, something like that. So it's not something that he always tees up, but when he plays here, he tends to play well. And it kind of makes sense. You get the Florida-ish vibe, but you also get kind of elevation, creativity, opportunities. You also get the through line of par 5 scoring. It makes sense that this is a Bubba track. And for 2 rounds last week, he was awesome. Right? Remember when everyone was drooling over Justin Thomas's 69 in round 2 at the Players Championship at TPC Sawgrass in the worst of the conditions? Bubba Watson had his own bogey-free 68, better round than Justin Thomas, and both of those guys faded over the final 2. And there is kind of this is probably a different topic for a different day on a different podcast or something like that, but there is an argument to be made that it's really hard to play straightforward golf after really creative golf. So in round 2, they had to be so creative, hit every window, every shot, every wind direction, everything. And then it was a lot more straightforward stock shots over the final 2 rounds. And there's a lot of guys that think that's hard to do. And now maybe unlocking a little bit more of that creativity for Bubba Watson this week, I'm interested. So he pops up in the $8,000 range, and then it's a pretty decent gap, about a third of a stroke down to Alex Noren, although he's only played 4 rounds at this event. Webb Simpson is here. Webb Simpson's played 32 rounds. On paper, a tree-lined course that wants you to play out of the fairway and rely a bit on your approach play. That's generally a good spot for Webb, and he's shown it. He's got a runner-up finish here. He had a T8 in 2018. He's generally gained strokes on approach and tee to green in nearly every single year. If you're willing to take a flyer on Webb, can we just look at let's look at Webb's metrics last week. And these metrics are hard because when you're splitting over days, there's so many different variables, and this is the only start we have on Webb in a long time. Lost strokes off the tee, even on approach. Not great around the green, and he gained strokes with the putter. It's not great. It's really not great. But again, if you're willing to throw out the Players Championship stuff for other guys, you have to throw it out for Webb too. He would be, for me, a very deep flyer in this $8,000 range. Not one I'm particularly excited about, but I could stomach the risk. I'll be interested to see what the industry does with an $8,100 Russell Knox. He's playing well, right? He had those 3 straight T33 finishes, which is almost mathematically impossible. And then he made the cut at Honda, and then he top 10s at the Players Championship last week. And if you look at his history around this event, 3 consecutive top 25 finishes. He had another one in 2014. So he's generally been on the first couple of pages of the leaderboard at the Valspar. Pretty interesting little setup for him. The 7K range starts off with someone that I'm pretty excited about, and I'm never really excited about Adam Hadwin, but I think this week has to change. So this is what I love to see. There are times when narratives and stats align, and we know that Adam Hadwin went at the end of the 2021, kind of went back, was able to reset, kind of work on some things, and you are now starting to see that in his actual stats here. So here's his last event of 2021. RSM Classic, he loses 2 strokes on approach. That was a trend in 2021. He was horrendous. He was losing, I believe it was like I don't want to say a half a stroke per round. That's a lot. I think it was like a 2/10 of a stroke per round on approach in 2021. Well, look at what has happened since the new year. He has played 6 measured events. He has gained strokes on approach in 5 of them. He has gained multiple strokes on approach in 3 of his last 4, including last week at the Players Championship. So we are seeing tangible statistical gains in a golfer's weak point from the previous year. That is a big deal. Let me tell you, when you start looking at profiles like this over and over and over again, you realize that's a big deal. The other thing that you get to add to the Adam Hadwin stuff is he's won this event before. He won it in 2017. He finished 12th in 2018. He's missed 2 cuts since then, but I think we're getting a convergence of a golfer who's definitely on the, if this was poker, we'd say like the top end of his range, right? Versus combine that with someone who is probably with plenty of good vibes around the Copperhead course, right? So that's very interesting to me at $7,900. I will roll out Aaron Wise one more time. One more time, we're going to roll out Aaron Wise. When you start looking, I don't know how far back I have to go. Let's just do 24 rounds of tee to green play, something like that, and just do only golfers in this field. Let's see. I bet you Aaron Wise is pretty far. Maybe not, actually. Okay. He's right here. He's just below Adam Svensson. He's like 20th on the list. I thought he would actually be higher than that. Let's go to approach play. Does he get any better? Maybe not, actually. Here he is. Maybe it's ball striking. Oh, boy, I'm really trying to fit the narrative here on Aaron Wise. Okay, there he is. He's basically top 10 in the ball striking categories, and you can see it. I mean, the bad news is Aaron Wise has kind of lost that short-term positive putter momentum that we saw kind of in the fall portion of the schedule. He's lost the putter. He's lost it. He's lost 3 strokes at Riviera, 4.5 at Bay Hill, 5 at the Players Championship. That's all the bad news. The good news is that now just moves him right back into squarely into the team no putt conversation, where he's gaining a ton of strokes off the tee, a ton of strokes on approach. His tee to green play is strong. I wish he was a little bit sharper around the green, but as we discussed, not necessarily a huge concern around Copperhead. So he's at least team no putt now, which by default I would have liked. I would have loved to have seen these more consistent gains with the putter, but he never cashed that winning ticket for us. I said I'd play him through Florida, and I think that is still the case. $7,700. I actually find the bottom of the $7,000 range quite good compared to some of the other tiers. Frankie Molinari, $7,500. We saw him get hot, kind of punted it away a little bit at the end of the Players Championship, but this should be a better setup for him. Sebastian Munoz just withdrew, so you can remove his name, and I'll take him out of the cheat sheet as well. You've got Doc, who we're seeing good signs from Doc again, right? And I still believe Doc is at his best on courses that demand good drivers of the golf ball. So he's 7,400. Even Adam Svensson, who has been ball striking fanatic, Adam Svensson at $7,200, along with Mito Pereira. Even Patton Kizzire made 10 birdies in the final rounds at the Players Championship. I think he was only 5 under, but that's great for fantasy scoring. Patton Kizzire was a guy I wrote up at before the season started for Golf Digest, basically being like, yeah, he just is always outperforming his leaderboard position with fantasy points because he's such a huge fantasy point scorer. So someone like that is pretty exciting in a $7,200 range and a weaker field as well. Here's the visual confirmation of that Patton Kizzire stuff for you. So I'm in the Holy Grail. I'm on the fantasy data tab. I've got this sorted for the last 2 years since the start of 2021, and I just have it done by birdies. And you'll see you don't have to go far before you run into Patton Kizzire, who makes more birdies per tournament than Dustin Johnson. He makes more bogeys as well. He also makes he has a birdie streak. Where is he? Right here, 0.4% 0.4 of a birdie streak per tournament. That's basically the same rate as Dustin Johnson. What he's doing is just making a lot more bogeys as well. That's very valuable in fantasy scoring, and you can see kind of the names that he's better than. It's better than Brooks Koepka. It's better than Dustin Johnson. It's better than a lot of guys, and you're obviously going to get him at a much cheaper price. And you just hope that he cleans up a couple of bogeys, he finishes like T9, and you walk away laughing. Admittedly, the $6,000 range is pretty bleak, but with the kind of plethora of good options in the lower 7K range, you might not have to dig too deep here. I'll point out a couple of guys that I think are at least a little bit interesting. Troy Merritt is $6,600. He's made a couple of cuts in a row at a lot tougher courses, a lot deeper fields at Bay Hill and at the Players Championship, and he finished 8th here. Last year, it was just Pebble Beach that we saw him kind of pop up and finish inside the top 5 as well, so I wouldn't mind that. Austin Smotherman, a name we haven't talked about in a bit because we haven't seen him play since the Honda Classic. Very good ball striker. Again, would not mind that at this Florida course. And then the other name that I rarely say is Tyler Duncan, and Duncan is kind of in a really awkward spot. So here is Duncan's recent results. So I think he's playing better than his results indicate. He's gained multiple strokes to the field in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 9, 55%. I'll take that right now. Sign me up for 4 strokes gained from Tyler Duncan right now, and I would take it. But you look at the results, he gained 2.5 at the American Express and missed the cut. That is a virtue of the 3-course rotation. You end up playing the courses on different days, and you can be better than the other guys who played it that day, but you're kind of losing ground to other people in the event. So you gain 2.5 strokes and you miss the cut. It's only really possible to do at these course rotations. And then he gained 3 again at Pebble Beach. He was basically dead even, missed the cut on the number at Phoenix. That was a stacked field. And then he gained 4 strokes in Puerto Rico. Now, this is not going to be a field nearly as weak as that Puerto Rico field, but you're talking about $6,200, a range that you hopefully don't even have to get into if you do go to Tyler Duncan and he makes the cut and he opens up the salary cap options for you. I think that you could do much, much worse. Okay, let's create a model here. Maybe that'll help find some other $6,000 guys as well. Here's the custom model on RickRunGood.com. I'm going to go last 24 rounds, and I think this one's pretty straightforward. At this point in the week, what I want to do is I want to go with strokes gained approach, and we can do weighted strokes gained approach. We know that that's a big one, so I'll put 30. Whoops, I can't type. 30 on weighted strokes gained approach. I would prefer you play out of the fairway, so I'll go with 20 on driving accuracy. So we've got 50 on our ball striking categories. And then, listen, this is a unique one. The 5 par 3s and the scoreable 5s. I think what we could just do for the purposes of this early, DFS preview, and we could, revisit this on the Wednesday live chat, is I'm just going to roll 25 on par 3 scoring and 25 on par 5 scoring and just kind of see what happens here. So that's my model for the moment. My number 1 golfer is... Oh boy, okay, no problem here. So the young guns, which kind of is what I liked anyway. Morikawa is number 1, Victor Hovland number 2. Love it. Boom, I'm in. Things start to get hairy when Martin Laird is number 3. Let's just quickly bounce back to Martin Laird here. I'll just kind of do this, deep dive research in real time because I am going to have to do this and we're a day behind. So let's see what Martin Laird has been up to. Interesting. Okay, so, wow. Yeah. Talk about the captain of Team No Putt. So gains 2.5 strokes off the tee and a stroke on approach to players, misses the cut because he loses 6 strokes putting, which is not that uncommon. He's been a big loser in the putting category. He's been a big winner in the approach category. So if you made a model like I did that did not acknowledge the short game statistics, Martin Laird certainly going to pop there. Abe Answer number 4. I'm loving this. This is like lining up with exactly the guys I talked about. Russell Knox is 5, JT 6, Cameron Tringale 7. I forgot about him. $8,000 even for Cam Tringale. Aaron Wise is 8. Great. Xander is 9. Keegan 10. Patton Kizzire 11. Sam Burns 12. Webb Simpson 13. I could keep going, but I'm not going to read every single player in the field. Very, very interesting. Okay, so I'll probably have to look a little bit deeper into Cameron Tringale and decide how much money I want to lose on Russell Knox and how much money I want to lose on Patton Kizzire. But this is fairly interesting, and obviously you can see that I have selected no short game statistics because some of these guys are just pure team no putt fellas, but that's a really good starting point to the week, and it's going to be a short week. Again, I would just say make sure you're subscribed and getting notified when things go live because the schedule is going to be a bit awkward this week. So I appreciate the support on that. But otherwise, you can tweet me at RickRunGood. You can leave a comment below. Best of luck this week, and I'll talk to you guys soon.